The next item on the agenda is an information item to provide us with the 2015 Regulatory Oversight Report for Canadian nuclear power plants, as outlined in CMD 1630 and 16M30.A. We have a representative from OPG, NB Power, Bruce Power, Innovation, Science and Economic Development Canada, and Health Canada, who are in attendance. Also available by teleconference, Hydro-Québec, the Durham Emergency Management Organization, and the Office of the Fire Marshal and Emergency Management. They all are available to answer questions. So why don't we start with the CNSC presentation. Mr. Frappier, you're going to make the presentation. Over to you.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Good morning to members of the Commission, Mr. President. My name is Jerry Frappier, and I'm the Director General of the Directorate of Power Reactor Regulations. Today, I have the pleasure to present for information the 2015 edition of the Regulatory Oversight Report for Canadian Nuclear Power Plants, contained in CMD 16M30. The report, hereafter referred to as the NPP report, provides a summary of the regulatory oversight and safety performance of Canadian nuclear power plants. The NPP report will be presented by the management team from the Directorate of Power Reactor Regulation. They are assisted by directors from the Technical Support Branch who are available to answer any technical questions the Commission may have. Today's presentation will begin with highlights of the nuclear power industry safety performance in 2015. The presentation will continue with details regarding the station's safety performance and regulatory developments. Towards the end of the presentation, we'll focus on industry's regulatory developments, and we'll close with general remarks. While CMD 16M30 and this presentation do address actions arising from Commission proceedings, items associated with exercise unified response, and I would suggest emergency preparedness in general, and discussions of radio interoperability are specifically addressed in CMD 16M30A and 16M30.C, which will be presented later today after this presentation. Before I turn the presentation over to the directors, I would like to present the executive summary of the industry's safety performance. This summary will provide you with the context for the station's specific highlights, including current challenges the industry is facing. As summarized on this slide, CNSC staff have made the following observations with respect to safety performance of the nuclear power plants in 2015. There were no serious process failures of operating systems at any nuclear power plant that could potentially challenge protective barriers. No members of the Canadian public received a radiation dose above the regulatory limit of 1 millisievert per year. There were no exposures of nuclear energy workers at Canadian nuclear power plants above the regulatory dose limit of 50 millisieverts per year. There were no environmental releases from nuclear power plants above the derived release limits. The frequency and severity of injuries and accidents involving workers were minimal. In fact, the overall accident severity rate and accident frequency for Canadian nuclear power plants remained lower than all the other Canadian industries, including the energy sector. All licensees complied with their license condition concerning Canada's international obligations regarding the peaceful use of nuclear energy, and no nuclear power plant event above International Nuclear Event Scale Level 0 were reported to the IEA. I would like to point out that these positive outcomes were the results of a multitude of provisions undertaken by each licensee and are in general a reflection of good organizational management and control by the licensees. This slide summarizes the ratings for the safety and control areas and the integrated plant ratings for the licensees and the industry as a whole. As you may recall, we have 4 rating categories, namely fully satisfactory, satisfactory, below expectation, and unacceptable. Regarding the overall station safety performance, the integrated plant rating were fully satisfactory for Bruce A, Bruce B, Darlington, and Pickering, and were satisfactory for Gentilly 2 and Pointe-le-Pro. The integrated plant ratings for Bruce A and Pickering improved from satisfactory in 2014 to fully satisfactory in 2015. For the remaining stations, their integrated plant ratings were unchanged from the previous year. Across the industry, the average ratings were fully satisfactory for conventional health and safety and waste management, as they were in 2014. In 2015, the industry operating performance rating improved to fully satisfactory, while the industry security ratings returned to satisfactory from fully satisfactory. The industry rating for the remaining 10 safety and control areas were satisfactory. Overall, for the stations, 19 safety and control areas were fully satisfactory and the remaining areas were satisfactory. This represents an improvement of 5 additional fully satisfactory ratings in comparison with 2014. No safety and control areas were rated as below expectation or unacceptable. The absence of below expectation or unacceptable ratings is the same result as in 2014, reflecting the CNSC's confidence in the licensee's safety performance during 2015. NPP ratings are based on findings from inspections, desktops, and other compliance verification activities conducted by the CNSC staff. Whereas in 2014 there were no medium or higher rating findings assessed to licensees, there were this year 4 medium findings. These medium findings relating to weaknesses in New Brunswick Power's management systems were identified during compliance activities at Pointe-le-Preau. CNSC staff have increased their regulatory oversight activities to ensure that the licensee addresses these medium findings and continues to monitor the implementation of corrective measures in 2016. I would now like to discuss the performance rating methodology. CNSC staff assesses the safety performance of licensees using a rating methodology that was established in 2010 and is based on multiple sources of inputs covering 14 safety and control areas. The inputs for the assessments include findings extracted from desktop reviews, site inspections, observations, walkdowns, and follow-ups. These findings come from the assessments conducted by CNSC staff at the specific area, which, as you recall, is just below the safety control area. You may recall that each safety control area is made up of a number of subtopics that we call specific areas. For example, the fitness for service safety and control area has 6 specific areas, including maintenance, structural integrity, aging management, to name a few. The specific area ratings are then rolled up using a computational method, resulting in the SCA rating. When there is uncertainty, the computational method is augmented with professional judgment. This assessment process is conducted for all safety and control areas. The safety and control area ratings are then combined using a risk-based weighting factor to produce the integrated plant rating, that is, the overall rating for each nuclear power plant. This table outlines the process used to determine the ratings. First, we identify the findings, the noncompliance with a requirement or criteria. Next, the findings are rated according to their safety significance level. These are either rated as high, medium, low, negligible, or no risk. The levels are approved by CNSC management or supervisory staff. The significance of the findings are then used to determine the ratings for each of the 69 specific areas. The ratings are unacceptable, below expectations, satisfactory, or fully satisfactory, and each of these are assigned a discrete value of either 0, 4, 7, or 10, respectively, which allows for computational analysis. Step 4 integrates the numeric values for the specific area ratings into an overall numeric value for the safety and control area. This numeric value is then converted to the corresponding qualitative rating of either unacceptable, below expectation, satisfactory, or fully satisfactory. In Step 5, values for the 14 SCA ratings are combined using a weighted formula to determine the integrated plant rating. The weighting values in the formula are based on safety significance of each safety control area. Finally, the industry average safety control area ratings are determined by averaging the numeric values for each station. This concludes the highlight section. I would now like to turn it over to Mr. Richard Cawthorn to continue with the overview and the industry safety performance section of this presentation.
Good morning, Richard Cawthorn for the record. I'm the Acting Director of the Power Reactor Licensing and Compliance Integration Division. Thank you, Mr. Frappier. I'd like to provide some background information on the 2015 NPP report, its public comment process conducted earlier this summer, as well as some overall safety performance information on the Canadian nuclear power industry. NPP licensees are responsible for ensuring the safe operation of the reactors, whereas the compliance verification conducted by CNSC staff is independently verifies that each licensee is meeting all applicable requirements in the regulations and their license conditions set by the Commission. Following licensing and as directed by the Commission, CNSC staff establish a compliance verification program which verifies that each NPP maintains compliance with all regulatory requirements and the conditions of their license following a risk-informed and performance-based approach. The safety performance presented in this 2015 NPP report is determined by CNSC staff using the results of the activities planned through the compliance verification program. This compliance verification program is composed of several compliance activities which are integrated to direct and inform each subsequent activity. These activities include surveillance and monitoring by on-site inspectors, announced and unannounced inspections, desktop reviews. CNSC inspectors track all licensee corrective actions until closure and verify closure through follow-up inspections. In the 2015 report, in 2015, over 800 compliance findings were derived from these compliance activities and were assessed by CNSC specialists. NPP licensees also submitted 258 situations and event reports and 98 scheduled operating performance reports that were reviewed and analyzed by CNSC specialists. The CNSC staff assessment of these compliance findings provide the safety performance and the ratings published in this 2015 NPP report. The duration and manpower required to conduct compliance verification activities varies from a couple hours by a single staff member up to a couple weeks by a team of CNSC staff. To give a more accurate picture, in 2015, compliance activities conducted by CNSC staff are presented here in total amounts of effort in person days. This table shows the amount of effort that was required by CNSC inspectors and specialists to conduct all compliance verification activities by the type of activity: on-site inspections, event reviews, and other compliance activities including walk-downs, surveillance and monitoring, and desktop reviews. These efforts represent over 17,000 person days of effort by approximately 200 CNSC staff. The results of compliance activities demonstrate that in 2015, all NPP licensees operated the reactors in a safe manner and complied with regulatory requirements. During 2015, CNSC staff presented 3 event initial reports to the Commission for situations that met the EIR reporting criteria. CNSC staff followed up all licensee corrective actions for these events and concurred with the actions implemented. CNSC staff are available to provide additional details to the Commission on these events if requested. The 2015 NPP report was posted on the CNSC website for public and Aboriginal comments. The posting was announced on the CNSC website through social media and through the CNSC's email distribution list. In addition, advertisements were placed in 15 Canadian newspapers. In April of this year, the CNSC issued a notice for participant funding, and one application for participant funding was received. However, the Funding Review Committee determined that the application did not meet the funding requirements. As a result of the posting, 8 interventions were received. Their comments can be summarized as follows. Positive feedback was received on the thoroughness of the report. Acknowledgement was received from Bruce Power for the strong integrated plant rating. Some concerns regarding probabilistic safety assessment were raised by an intervener. These comments were addressed yesterday in CMD 16M46. As shown on this map, there are 5 nuclear power plants in Canada, 3 multi-unit plants in Ontario, a single unit plant in Quebec, and a single unit plant in New Brunswick. These 5 NPPs have operating licenses for a total of 22 nuclear reactors, of which 19 were operational in 2015. The 3 reactors which were not operating are in Quebec, one in Quebec which completed transition to safe storage on December 2nd, 2014, and units 2 and 3 at Pickering in Ontario, which have been defueled since 2008. The Canadian nuclear power industry continues to supply approximately 17% of Canada's electricity needs. In 2015, 66% of Ontario's electricity and 31% of New Brunswick's electricity was generated by nuclear power. This graphic depicts the 22 licensed nuclear power reactors previously discussed and their status as of 2015 in Canada. As stated earlier, 19 reactors were operating and have been returned to service, as shown by the blue and green bundles respectively. The 3 reactors in safe storage state, as depicted here by the red bundles, are Unit 2 and Unit 3, the 2 units at Pickering and the single unit at Jean-T-Du, called Jean-T-Du. These are identified in red. This ends the section of the presentation, the background presentation. I'd now like to continue with a summary of the industry safety performance for 2015. The CNSC began to report on performance comparisons between Canadian nuclear power plants and between international organizations a few years ago. The publication of Regulatory Document 3.1.1 enabled the collection of updated safety performance indicators, 4 of which are presented today. 2 are international benchmarks and 2 are national benchmarks. The first international benchmark, the safety performance indicator, is the number of unplanned reactor trips for the Canadian nuclear industry. Seen here in purple, in comparison with the World Organization of Nuclear Operators, or WANO. This indicator provides an indication of success of improving plant safety by reducing the number of undesirable and unplanned power transients which cause automatic reactor shutdown by special safety systems. It also provides an indication of how well the plant is operated and maintained. As the purple data shows, the Canadian nuclear industry has achieved a significant reduction in unplanned trips in 2015 to about 1/3 of the international performance target, represented by the horizontal red line on the table. The second international benchmark safety performance indicator is forced loss rate for the Canadian industry versus the World Association of Nuclear Operators. The purpose of this indicator is to monitor industry's progress in minimizing outage time and power reductions that result from unplanned equipment failures, human errors, and other conditions during the operating period. This indicator also reflects the effectiveness of plant programs and practices in maintaining systems available for electrical generation. The forced loss rate for Canada in 2015, seen here in purple, is above the international average, but remained at the same level as last year. The first national benchmarking safety performance indicator is the annual dose to the public resulting from airborne emissions and liquid releases. This slide compares Canadian nuclear power plants between themselves and shows the past 5-year trend for each nuclear power reactor in the multicolored bars. The 5-year trend for each nuclear power plant has continued to be consistently low. During the period of 2012 to 2014, Jean-Thieu had some small increases associated with dismantling equipment and transition to safe storage. With the completion of this transition, the 2015 value for Jean-Thieu has returned to its normal low level. Please note that because the doses are very low, we have used a logarithmic scale on this chart, as seen on the left. Each unit on the logarithmic scale represents a 10-fold increase in the value of the estimated dose. Overall, the data shows that radioactive releases from Canadian nuclear power plants results in a public dose of about 0.1%, or 1,000 times lower than the 1 millisievert public dose limit, as shown by the horizontal red line. For comparison, this graph also shows the dose from Canadian nuclear power plants is much lower than the dose resulting from natural background radiation, as shown by the blue horizontal line. The public dose data confirms that Canadian licensees' programs continue to be effective in protecting the public and the environment from radiological releases. The second national benchmark safety performance indicator is the annual occupational dose received by workers in the nuclear power industry. This shows the 5-year trends in the multicolored bars for each dose distribution among workers. This data shows that more than 3/4 of Canada's nuclear power plant workers received an occupational radiation dose of less than the minimum that the dosimetry devices can measure, and more than 96% received less than the public dose limit of 1 millisievert. This 86% portion of workers has increased by 4% from 2012 to 2015, which is a testament to the continued effectiveness of the licensees' radiation protection programs. In addition, during 2015, no worker among the more than 27,000 monitored workers received a dose exceeding the occupational dose limit of 50 millisieverts. This data clearly shows the radiation protection programs implemented by the nuclear power licensees are protecting workers in the Canadian nuclear industry and resulting in reduced numbers of workers in the higher dose ranges. This concludes the safety performance section of this report. We now present the summary for each nuclear power plant consisting of safety performance ratings, highlights, regulatory focus, and major projects and initiatives. Beginning with Bruce Nuclear Generation Station, I'd like to introduce Mr. Ken Lafreniere.
Thank you, Mr. Cawthorn. My name is Ken Lafreniere. I'm the director for the Bruce Regulatory Program. Bruce Power is licensed to operate the Bruce A and B nuclear generating stations, each located on the shores of Lake Huron. Both stations consist of 4 CANDU units. In 2015, all 8 units were operational. In May 2015, the Commission renewed the Bruce A and B licenses as a single license. The new license is for 5 years and will expire in 2020. In the license renewal decision, the Commission authorized the operation of the units 1 to 8 up to a maximum of 247,000 equivalent full power hours. During the license renewal hearings, CNSC staff committed to reporting to the Commission on the outcome of the CSA N293-12 Technical Committee discussions relating to Bruce Power's concern over a qualified third party. I wish to report to the Commission that Bruce Power decided not to pursue this issue regarding third-party reviews. CNSC staff considered this issue closed and therefore requests that the Commission close action item H 2015-09. This table shows the 2015 performance rating for the safety and control areas for both Bruce A and B. The performance in conventional health and safety, security, and in waste management at both Bruce A and B, as well as the operating performance at Bruce B, remained unchanged at fully satisfactory. Operating performance for Bruce A improved to fully satisfactory in 2015. Overall, the integrated plant ratings for the Bruce A increased to fully satisfactory, while the integrated rating for Bruce B remained at fully satisfactory. I would like to outline some safety performance highlights in the next 2 slides. Both stations operated safely in 2015. Bruce A experienced no unplanned trips and Bruce B experienced 1 unplanned trip. In total, there were 12 forced outages at the end of 2015, 6 at Bruce A, 6 at Bruce B. These outages were mainly to proactively service or repair equipment, and outages were conducted successfully in accordance with regulatory requirements. Bruce Power continued to exceed regulatory requirements in the area of conventional health and safety. In 2015, the accident severity rate at Bruce A and B during the year was 0, which is an indication of outstanding safety performance. The Bruce Power Nuclear Waste Management Program met or exceeded regulatory requirements at both Bruce A and B. All radioactive waste is disposed of properly and in accordance with regulatory requirements. The Bruce Power Security Program continued to meet or exceed regulatory requirements. Bruce Power participated in the International Physical Protection Advisory Service mission to Canada in October 2015. Bruce Power hosted an Incident Command course and a World Institute for Nuclear Security workshop for the industry. Also, Bruce Power has taken innovative steps to improve security by implementing digital fingerprinting to improve their site access security clearance program. The following slides will look at 3 areas of regulatory focus for the CNSC at Bruce. The first area is periodic safety review and refurbishment. The second area is Department of Fisheries and Oceans authorization under Section 35 of the Fisheries Act. And the third area is the Environmental Assessment Follow-up Monitoring Program. For the PSR review and refurbishment, Bruce A safety factor reports were submitted to the CNSC in August of 2015. CNSC staff have completed the review of these reports and concluded that Bruce Power has properly identified the strengths and gaps presented in the safety factor reports. Bruce Power has also submitted the Bruce B PSR basis document in January, which has been accepted by the CNSC staff. And Bruce Power plans on submitting a combined Bruce A and B Global Assessment Report and Integrated Implementation Plan in November 2016. For the DFO authorization process under Section 35 of the Fisheries Act, in 2015, Bruce Power submitted a draft assessment on the need for a DFO authorization for the impingement and entrainment of fish. CNSC staff have reviewed this draft assessment, concluded that Bruce Power has correctly understood CNSC staff expectations. Bruce Power, DFO, and CNSC staff have been meeting monthly to ensure that the application process is on track, and the application for authorization to DFO is expected to be submitted in September 2016. For the follow-up environmental assessment follow-up program, Bruce Power continued to implement the program for the Bruce A environmental assessment related to Units 1 and 2 refurbishment project. The program has shown that there were no significant and continues to show that there are no significant adverse environmental effects as a result of the refurbishment of Bruce Units 1 and 2. CNSC staff have been working closely with Environment and Climate Change Canada, Aboriginal groups on environmental issues that have arisen through the Environmental Assessment Follow-Up Monitoring Program, and the Follow-Up Monitoring Program is expected to finish in 2016. The 37M fuel project was successfully implemented by Bruce Power. In 2015, Bruce A and B units continued to transition to the new 37M fuel bundle. CNSC staff have concluded that there are no appreciable changes or operating anomalies associated with the use of the 37M fuel bundles. Bruce Power participated in the International Atomic Energy Agency Operational Safety Review Team mission in December 2015. The IAEA OSART program has been in place since 1982 and provides a forum for countries from around the world to share best practices and support continuous improvement for operating nuclear power plants. The OSART team is independent from both Bruce Power and the CNSC. The OSART mission confirmed that Bruce Power has operated safely and has met all current regulatory requirements. The mission's report included 10 good practices and 5 recommendations. Some of the recommendations are being addressed through the development and implementation of new regulatory requirements, such as those found in the periodic safety review and the fitness for duty regulatory documents currently before the Commission. This concludes the summary for Bruce A and B. I will now turn over the presentation to Mr. Miguel Santini, Director of the Darlington Regulatory Program Division.
Thank you, Mr. Lafreniere. Good morning, Mr. President and members of the Commission. Ontario Power Generation is located in Clarington, Ontario, and is licensed to operate the Darlington Nuclear Power Plant, which consists of 4 units. All 4 units at Darlington were operational in 2015. In December 2015, the Commission renewed the Darlington operating license. With the new license, the Commission authorized OPG to undertake the refurbishment and life extension of the 4 reactor units comprising the Darlington MPP. The Commission also authorized OPG to operate the 4 reactor units beyond 210,000 equivalent full power hours to the proposed refurbishment outages up to a maximum of 235,000 equivalent full power hours. This table shows the performance rating for the safety and control areas for Darlington. The ratings for operating performance, radiation protection, and waste management remained unchanged at fully satisfactory. The rating for safety analysis and conventional health and safety improved from satisfactory to fully satisfactory. The rating for security was satisfactory in 2015, which is lower than the fully satisfactory obtained in 2014. Overall, Darlington received an integrated plan rating of fully satisfactory. Darlington has received this rating consistently in the past 8 years. Next, I would like to outline some examples of performance highlights at Darlington in 2015. The safety analysis rating for Darlington improved to fully satisfactory. CNSC staff noted that OPG is showing a strong commitment to safety through its safety analysis program. In the area of radiation protection, OPG continues to implement at Darlington a highly efficient and well-documented as low as reasonable achievable, or LARA program, which is based on industry best practices. The conventional health and safety rating for Darlington also improved to fully satisfactory. CNSC staff noted that the accident severity rate for Darlington decreased from 4.4 in 2014 to 0.2 in 2015. One of the areas of regulatory focus at Darlington is the oversight of the refurbishment project and the implementation of the Integrated Implementation Plan approved in 2015 by the Commission at the hearing. Due to its magnitude and complexity, OPG has set up a separate organization to manage the refurbishment project. In the meantime, the operating organization must continue with the routine to safely operate the other 3 units. Our focus will not only be the safe operation of the 3 operating units and on the refurbishment activity, but also on the interface between the refurbishment and the operating organizations. The importance of this interface is compounded by the presence of a large number of contractors at site for the next few years. As you may recall, Darlington Integrated Implementation Plan was incorporated into Power Reactor Operating License in December 2015, after the licensing hearing. The plan and a change control process for non-intent changes to the IIP are included in the License Conditions Handbook. This aims at controlling schedule changes or changes to specific tasks listed in the Integrated Implementation Plan. To date, all Integrated Implementation Plan items have been completed by OPG per schedule, with the exception of the installation of one station improvement opportunity. This improvement, which was to be completed by December 2015, consisted in the installation of the shield tank overpressure device on Unit 3. This device is a large rupture disc used only for severe accident mitigation. The installation was delayed as a result of a water hammer discovery during installation. The problem of the device was solved by OPG through design change, and it was recently installed on Unit 4 as per the IIP schedule. The device will be installed on Unit 3 in September 2016, thereby fully meeting the safety intent of the IIP. With respect to the refurbishment of Unit 2, all preparatory work is on track to start the outage activities in October 2016. During the licensing hearing, the Commission included regulatory hold points in the Darlington license and LCH. Further specific details related to the exact work that needs to be completed by OPG before hold points can be released by the CNSC is under development and will be reported in the next MPP report. One important component of the IIP was the environmental assessment follow-up program. Activities in this area continue as planned. These include continued and aquatic sampling and the thermal monitoring plan for long-term operations. This includes the summary on Darlington. I will now turn over to the presentation to Dr. Hatem Khawaja, Acting Director of the Pickering Regulatory Program Division.
Thank you, Mr. Santini. Good morning, Mr. President and members of the Commission. Pickering Nuclear Generating Station consists of 8 reactor units. The current operating license for Pickering is in effect from September 1st, 2013 to August 31st, 2018. In 2015, Units 1, 4, and 5 to 8 were operational, and Units 2 and 3 were in a safe storage state. This table shows the 2015 performance ratings for the safety and control areas at Pickering compared to the industry average. The ratings for operating performance, safety analysis, conventional health and safety, and waste management all improved from satisfactory to fully satisfactory in 2015. The performance in radiation protection remained unchanged at fully satisfactory in 2015. The rating for security was satisfactory in 2015, which is lower than fully satisfactory obtained in 2014. Performance for Pickering in the remaining safety and control areas was satisfactory. Overall, the integrated plant rating for Pickering was fully satisfactory in 2015, an improvement from the previous year. Next, I would like to outline Pickering safety performance highlights, focusing first on good practices. As we've seen, the ratings indicate that OPG operated Pickering at a high level of performance. In the single unplanned reactor trip that Pickering experienced in 2015, all outages and transients were controlled properly and successfully in accordance with requirements. Pickering has a robust severe accident management program that has been fully implemented. CNSC staff performed an assessment of the safety analysis implementation and concluded that OPG shows a strong commitment to safety throughout. In the area of radiation protection, OPG continues to implement at Pickering a highly effective and well-documented ALARA program, or as low as reasonably achievable, based on industry best practices. OPG exceeded regulatory requirements in the area of conventional health and safety. Accident severity rate at Pickering decreased in 2015 with only a single reported lost time injury. CNSC staff note that the waste management program for radioactive and hazardous waste exceeded CNSC requirements. The program is highly effective in promoting waste minimization, segregation, storage, and handling. Regarding the regulatory focus for Pickering, the Commission removed the regulatory hold point for continued operation for the Pickering license in 2014. A commitment derived from the removal was that OPG would submit an annual update on, first, the aging management program and fitness for service of major components, and second, a detailed risk improvement plan. The 2015 update on the aging management program and fitness for service of major components comprised scheduled inspections of fuel channels, feeders, and steam generators. These inspections determined that the mean diameter of the pressure tubes were within service limits. The highest hydrogen concentration in pressure tubes was also within service limits. The inspected feeders had wall thicknesses greater than the minimum allowable, and no steam generators exceeded the limits of tube plugging. Overall, CNSC staff are satisfied with the results of the 2015 major component inspections and confirm the findings meet CNSC regulatory requirements. CNSC staff are satisfied with the current status of the implementation of the risk improvement plan and note that the planned improvements will result in further reduction in plant risk. The implementation of whole site-based PSA methodology is ongoing and on target for the completion by 2017. This topic is discussed in more detail under the Industry Regulatory Development section of this presentation. Regarding projects and initiatives underway at the station, I will describe activities in the area of management of end of commercial operation. The continued operation plan, or COP, covers the implementation of the integrated safety review completed for Pickering B to ensure safe long-term operation. The Sustainable Operations Plan, or SOP, became effective January 2016, and its focus is on actions required to ensure safe operation of the units to the end of commercial operations and while approaching permanent shutdown. In 2015, OPG submitted documents addressing changes in operations, and CNSC staff are reviewing these documents. In January 2016, the Ontario government announced the approval of OPG's plan to pursue continued operation of Pickering beyond 2020 up to 2024. To support this plan, OPG will conduct a periodic safety review, or PSR, in accordance with Reg Doc 2.3.3, published in April 2015. In accordance with the license condition in the current operating license, OPG will formally communicate to the Commission the permanent shutdown dates and their plan for the end of operation for each unit by June 30th, 2017. This concludes the Pickering presentation. I will now turn the presentation to Monsieur Benoît Poulet, le directeur de la division du programme de réglementation de Gentilly 2 et Point-le-Pro.
Merci, Dr. Kouaja. Monsieur le Président, membres de la Commission, bonjour. La centrale de Gentilly 2, qui est maintenant en état de stockage sûr, est la propriété d'Hydro-Québec. L'exploitation commerciale de la centrale de Gentilly 2 a pris fin le 28 décembre 2012 et la transition vers l'état de stockage sûr en piscine a été complétée le 2 décembre 2014. Gentilly 2 est maintenant en transition vers l'état de stockage sûr à sec, simplement appelé ESS sec. L'atteinte de l'ESS sec, prévue pour 2020, marquera le début de la période de dormance avec surveillance. À ce moment, tout le combustible qui se trouve présentement dans les piscines, ainsi que tous les autres déchets de moyenne et basse activité, auront été transférés aux installations de gestion des déchets présentes sur le site de Gentilly 2. Suite à une audience publique tenue le 5 mai 2016, la Commission a délivré à Hydro-Québec un permis de déclassement de réacteurs nucléaires d'une durée de 10 ans. Ce permis permettra à Hydro-Québec de compléter les activités requises pour l'atteinte de l'ESS sec et d'amorcer la période de dormance de l'installation. Le permis sera valide du 1er juillet 2016 jusqu'au 30 juin 2026. Ce tableau montre les cotes de rendement attribuées à Gentilly 2 pour l'année 2015 pour chacun des domaines de sûreté et de réglementation. Le rendement de Gentilly 2 pour chacun des domaines de sûreté et de réglementation a été jugé satisfaisant. Le rendement global à Gentilly 2 a lui aussi été jugé satisfaisant. Tel que déjà mentionné, Gentilly 2 est présentement à l'état de stockage sûr avec le combustible usé entreposé dans les piscines. Cet état est simplement appelé ESS piscine. L'ESS piscine est un état sûr transitoire d'une durée d'environ 6 ans qui assure le refroidissement des grappes de combustible retirées du réacteur avant leur transfert dans les modules de stockage à sec appelés CANSTAR. Hydro-Québec a poursuivi les travaux de transition de l'installation de Gentilly 2 vers l'ESS sec tout au long de l'année 2015. Les travaux et les activités réalisées par Hydro-Québec en 2015 sont basés sur un plan de fin d'exploitation qui a été revu et accepté par le personnel de la CCSN en mai 2014. Ces travaux et activités incluent le transfert des grappes de combustible usées de la piscine de stockage à l'aire de stockage sec, le transfert de déchets radioactifs vers les installations de déchets, la reconfiguration de certains systèmes et la construction de 2 modules CANSTAR. Le personnel de la CCSN a maintenu la surveillance réglementaire de ces activités tout au long de 2015. Tel que mentionné, Hydro-Québec a réalisé plusieurs activités reliées à la gestion des déchets tout au long de 2015 et entend poursuivre ce type d'activités qui sont requises pour l'atteinte de l'ESS sec. Les activités de transfert de déchets de faible et moyenne activité aux installations de déchets situées sur le site de Gentilly 2 et prévues à cet effet se poursuivent toujours en 2016. Des campagnes de transfert du combustible entreposé dans les piscines vers les modules CanStar, situés à l'aire de stockage à sec, seront complétées à chaque année jusqu'à ce que toutes les grappes de combustible soient transférées hors des piscines. Le personnel de la CCSN effectue des inspections à chaque année pour vérifier que le programme est conforme aux exigences réglementaires et que les pratiques d'Hydro-Québec sont efficaces pour assurer le maintien de la sûreté. Le domaine d'intérêt réglementaire pour Gentilly 2 en 2015 était l'aptitude fonctionnelle. Hydro-Québec a soumis, en juillet 2014, des mises à jour de ses programmes de surveillance et d'inspection pour les structures, systèmes et composants importants sur le plan de la sûreté. Le personnel de la CCSN et Hydro-Québec ont tenu des réunions tout au long de 2015 pour préciser l'information et les détails nécessaires afin que les programmes répondent aux exigences réglementaires. Le personnel de la CCSN a complété une inspection des programmes de surveillance d'Hydro-Québec en janvier 2016 pour vérifier qu'ils étaient en conformité avec les exigences réglementaires. Au cours de la période de rapport, le permis d'exploitation a été modifié une fois par la Commission. Cette modification avait pour objectif de mieux aligner les exigences du permis avec les activités de stabilisation complétées ou en cours, l'état des systèmes et de l'équipement de la centrale et la diminution du niveau de risque relié aux installations de Gentilly 2. Le manuel des conditions de permis a aussi été révisé une fois. Les changements apportés étaient principalement de nature administrative. À titre d'exemple, le manuel des conditions de permis a été modifié pour inclure des mises à jour aux documents d'application de la réglementation, notamment la mise en œuvre du RegDoc 3.1.1 qui a succédé au document S99. I will now continue with the Pointe-le-Pro Generating Station safety assessment portion of the report. The Pointe-le-Pro nuclear power plant consists of a single CANDU 600 reactor that is operated by the New Brunswick Power Corporation. The Pointe-le-Pro Generating Station was operational throughout 2015. The operating license was renewed in February 2012, and it will expire in June of 2017. This table shows the 2015 performance rating for the safety and control areas at Pointe-le-Pro. The performance for the station in conventional health and safety remained at fully satisfactory, while the other safety and control areas were all rated as satisfactory. Overall, the integrated plant rating for Pointe-le-Pro was satisfactory, the same as for the previous year. Based on the information assessed, CNSC staff concluded the conventional health and safety SCA, or safety control area at Pointe-le-Pro, met or exceeded performance objectives in all applicable regulatory requirements. As a result, the station received a fully satisfactory rating, unchanged from last year. The accident severity rate at Pointe-le-Pro remained at 0 in 2015, unchanged from 2014. Accident frequency was also below the industry average in 2015. The NB Power Radiation Protection Program continues to meet regulatory requirements. Although the overall rating remains unchanged at satisfactory, through compliance verification activities, CNSC staff concludes there is an improving trend in this area. In particular, improvements have been confirmed in the specific areas of ALARA, or as low as reasonably achievable, and worker dose control. Extensive updates to incorporate industry best practices have been made to the Radiation Protection Program documents and the Pointe-le-Pro 5-year ALARA plan based on benchmarking activities. NB Power was also responsive in addressing CNSC staff inspection findings raised in 2014. All findings were of low safety significance and were addressed promptly by NB Power staff. CNSC inspectors confirmed that all of these regulatory findings were effectively addressed. CNSC staff continued to conduct regulatory oversight activities in the area of fire protection design in 2015, including inspections that verified the effectiveness of plant equipment and of the on-site industrial fire brigade. CNSC staff concluded that Pointe-le-Pro maintained a comprehensive fire response capability that includes effective equipment, procedures, training, and maintenance of proficiency. As part of the 2012 Pointe-le-Pro license renewal, the Commission required NB Power to complete a site-specific seismic hazard assessment for Pointe-le-Pro. The final assessment, which included a probabilistic seismic hazard assessment and a paleoseismology investigation, were submitted by NB Power on June 30th, 2015. NB Power also submitted its other external hazard assessment, mainly a high wind assessment and a site-specific probabilistic tsunami hazard assessment, as required by Fukushima Action Items 2.1.1 and 2.1.2, including the plans for any follow-up activities based on these assessments. Staff from the CNSC, Natural Resources Canada, and Environmental and Climate Change Canada reviewed and accepted the NB Power submissions. NB Power has posted the Pointe-le-Pro Seismic Hazard Summary Report on its public website. It provides further details on the evolution of seismic evaluation methodologies, as well as an update on seismic-related work. Updated seismic probabilistic safety assessment levels 1 and 2 have also been submitted and are currently under review by CNSC staff. In accordance with CNSC requirements, NB Power continued to maintain and implement an effective environmental risk assessment and management program for the protection of the environment and human health at Pointe-le-Pro. NB Power submitted an environmental risk assessment in 2015 according to CSA standard N288.6 that is entitled Environmental Risk Assessment at Class 1 Nuclear Facilities and Uranium Mines and Mills. NB Power continues to work on addressing identified gaps in its environmental protection programs. Fish mortality monitoring due to cooling water intake continued throughout 2015. CNSC staff will review the final NB Power reports expected later this year. This concludes the Gentilly II and the Pointe-le-Pro presentations. I will now turn the presentation back to Mr. Jerry Frappier.
Thank you, Mr. Poulet. This next section of the presentation will highlight some industry regulatory developments. Specifically, I'll provide updates on the neutron overpower protection methodology, the counterfeit suspect fraudulent items program, probabilistic safety assessments, the industry response to Fukushima Daiichi accident, and the new nuclear project at Darlington. A key highlight that we would like to bring to the Commission's attention is associated with emergency preparedness, as noted in Supplementary CMD 16M30C. And these highlights, however, will be presented in a separate presentation that will follow the conclusion of this presentation. CNSC staff have been providing annual updates on the status of the review of the new enhanced neutron overpower protection methodology since 2009. The 2015 update is found at section 2.2.2 of the NPP report. You will recall that to address impacts of heat transport system aging on neutron overpower protection trip set points, Bruce Power and OPG proposed a new enhanced neutron overpower protection methodology. The new methodology uses a statistical approach to compute the neutron overpower set points. CNSC has been reviewing industry submissions and subsequent updates and improvements to their approach over the past several years. OPG and Bruce Power submitted their final response to the CNSC in March 2015. CNSC staff completed the review of this final response in January of 2016. CNSC staff concluded that Bruce Power and OPG stations are well protected by the neutron overpower trip set points calculated using the enhanced neutron overpower methodology. This will be the final annual update to the Commission regarding this methodology. However, CNSC staff will continue monitoring the implementation of the methodology and will perform additional inspections with the aim of verifying additional precautions taken by licensees to ensure the trip set points remain conservative at all times. Regarding counterfeit, suspect, and fraudulent items, in March 2015, a valve supplier notified licensees of Canadian nuclear power plants that materials contained in its valve assemblies and components may not conform to accepted standards, specifications, or technical requirements. Licensees immediately notified the CNSC about this event, which encompassed valves supplied to Canadian nuclear power plants between 2001 and 2013. CNSC staff have maintained continuous regulatory oversight of this event and remain satisfied that licensees continue to ensure adequate provisions for the protection of workers, the public, and the environment. CNSC staff have provided the Commission with updates on this issue on 2 occasions in 2015, as well as in April of this year. CNSC staff concluded that the engineering assessments and reviews conducted by licensees, suppliers, and authorized inspection agencies have been performed thoroughly and in a robust manner. Based on the outcome of these assessments and reviews, there is no safety risk for the continued use of the affected valves. CNSC staff are developing a new reg doc that describes the management system requirements applicable to counterfeit, suspect, fraudulent items and defines CNSC's expectations. A new CSA quality assurance standard is also being developed. This new standard will contain requirements for the prevention and detection of counterfeit, suspect, and fraudulent items. I would now like to highlight our PSA program, or Probabilistic Safety Assessment Program. This has been an area of keen interest for the Commission over the past few years. We talked a little bit about it yesterday as well. But before elaborating on the whole site probabilistic safety assessment, I would like to start by highlighting that the role of the probabilistic safety assessment within the CNSC regulatory framework, as well as the benefits gained through the probabilistic safety assessments. All Canadian nuclear power plants were designed and their safety case developed based on deterministic approaches, not probabilistic approaches. Canada is one of the few countries that requires a PSA of all the nuclear power plants. We believe that a good PSA helps to identify safety improvement opportunities. The PSAs are performed on a per unit and per unique hazard basis. The unique hazards are internal events, seismic events, fire, or high winds. This provides a wealth of risk-informed information used in identifying the safety improvement opportunities for a unit to be protected against a very specific type of hazards. As one of the many benefits of the PSA, CANDO PSAs have identified safety improvements well before the advents and lessons learned from the Fukushima accident. Examples are the identification of inclusion of extra emergency power generators, filtered venting systems, enhancing the relief capacity of the shield tank, and the enhancement of the powerhouse venting systems. It is important to mention that, as per the international practice, PSA results are not used as a sole basis for regulatory decision, nor as a pass-fail line without due consideration of other important aspects of the overall plant safety. The results of a PSA are used in conjunction with analysis and evaluations. While Canada is the leader in the application of PSA, the Commission has pushed for more to be done. During the Pickering hearing in May 2013, the Commission noted that the PSAs are developed on a reactor basis, and the PSA results are expressed on a per reactor year. The Commission wanted us to consider how to undertake a PSA-type assessment that would include multiple units, a so-called whole-site PSA. As a result, during the May 2014 Pickering Hold Point hearings, the Commission directed the CNSC staff to include in annual reports a clear timeline for the development and implementation of whole site-based safety goals and a PSA methodology to go along with it. As requested by the Commission, this nuclear power plant report includes a clear timeline for the development and implementation of the whole site-based safety goals and the associated PSA implementation. I'd like to talk about both of those now. The current PSA are conducted on a unit reactor basis. However, we should note that effects and contribution from adjacent units at multiple unit stations are fully accounted for in the calculated PSA results. These PSA are fully in place for each NPP in Canada. Furthermore, they are updated and submitted to the CNSC every 5 years or as needed. The following is an overview of CNSC staff actions during the last 3 years associated with developing a new approach to multiple units. First, and as a follow-up to the Fukushima accident lessons learned, CNSC staff updated the regulatory documentation on PSA and reissued it as Reg Doc 2.4.2 in May of 2014. The new Reg Doc 2.4.2 specifically requires the inclusion in the PSA of the multiple unit impacts. Second, CNSC staff established a working group on safety goals. In November of 2014, this CNSC staff organized with the Nuclear Energy Agency an international workshop on whole site PSA. This workshop brought together eminent international experts, regulators, academics, consulting organizations, and industry to share experiences on the topic of whole site PSA and site-based safety goals. The picture in this slide shows the members of the workshop technical committee, which included internationally recognized experts in the field of PSA, such as George Apostolakis, who is professor at MIT and former U.S. NRC commissioner, Carl Fleming of KNF Consulting Services, Mohammed Modaris of the University of Maryland, and many others. CNSC staff is also heavily engaged in bilateral cooperations with the U.S. NRC, and we are active in the Nuclear Energy Agency's working group on risk assessment, which is making assessments of whole site PSA. The major outcome from these international consultations and benchmarking include that there is no international consensus for conducting whole site PSA, and there is no internationally established site-based safety goals. All these observations are showing that the topic of safety goals is complex, and achieving an international consensus on this topic will be challenging. Canada is the first country to look into the area of site-based safety goals and whole site PSA, and currently leads the international effort to help develop a technical basis for the development of whole site PSA. This is being done through the Nuclear Energy Agency in Paris. CNSC staff target the development of site-based safety goals concurrently with the industry's efforts towards implementation of a whole site-based methodology, which I will update in the next slide. As directed by the Commission, OPG is developing a whole site PSA for the Pickering Nuclear Generating Station and will be the first site to develop such a whole site PSA. Therefore, on this slide, I will provide a status update regarding the development of this methodology. In March 2014, OPG submitted a concept-level whole site PSA methodology, which was accepted by CNSC staff. This concept-level methodology is based on the results of an international workshop on whole site PSA organized by Canadian industry in January of 2014. OPG staff are considering all reactor units, spent fuel bays, internal and external hazards, and all operating modes for this Pickering whole site PSA. This is expected to be completed by August of 2017. There is no change in the timeline from the last update that we provided the Commission at the August 2015 Commission hearings. CNSC staff is closely monitoring the progress of this undertaking through regular information exchange meetings and will report again to the Commission at the upcoming Pickering relicensing hearing, which will be held in 2017. With respect to Fukushima Daiichi accident response, all Fukushima action items are closed based on deliverables as defined in the action plan and the defined closure criteria. With the exception of a very small number of modifications that require design changes by the licensees, which are on schedule for completion, the implementation of all the regulatory requirements has been completed. Verification for each facility is tracked through the normal compliance verification processes. In December of 2015, the IEA published its Director General report on the Fukushima Daiichi accident. The CNSC action plan that was done earlier is well aligned with the 45 lessons learned identified in the IEA report. In particular, actions related to strengthening defense in depth, enhancing emergency response, improving the regulatory framework, and enhancing international collaborations were quickly imposed on licensees of major nuclear facilities. Additional lessons learned related to public communications are well aligned. Post-accident recovery guidelines addressing the elements of the IEA report that speak to off-site measures related to the transition from emergency early response to recovery are being drafted by the CNSC in conjunction with local, federal, provincial authorities and the licensees. So what remains is the post-accident recovery guidelines that needs to be done with other jurisdictions. So this is a project ongoing. For the Fukushima action items, the licensees submitted their last round of progress update reports in 2015. All short, medium, and long-term Fukushima action items are closed for all stations. Compliance verification of Fukushima-related modifications and upgrades. The CNSC staff completed inspections at all Canadian nuclear power plants to verify implementation of the Fukushima plant modifications and emergency mitigating equipment. CNSC staff participated in all large-scale exercises to verify in situ the demonstration of the equipment performance. Regarding the new nuclear project at Darlington, this slide provides the annual update on the Darlington new nuclear project. Two important areas of activity were around bird habitat and land planning around the site. OPG continued monitoring the artificial nest habitat during the 2015 season. In March 2016, CNSC staff received and are currently reviewing the OPG 2015 Bank Swallow Program results. Key activities in progress to date regarding land use planning are as follows. The revised Provincial Policy Statement 2014 includes new policy on land use compatibility, which is further supported by definitions for sensitive land users and major facilities that include energy generating facilities such as the nuclear power plant. The region of Durham has committed to updating by 2018 its regional official plan and ensure it aligns with this PPS 2014. A draft official plan for the municipality of Clarington was released in March 2015, and it includes policies to address the PPS 2014 around land use planning. In closing, I would like to summarize the overall concluding remarks on the safety performance of nuclear power plants in Canada and the safety improvements being introduced by licensees. Based on all compliance activities, CNSC staff made a number of general conclusions with respect to safety performance of nuclear power plants in Canada in 2015. Namely that nuclear power plants operated safely, the integrated plant ratings were determined to be fully satisfactory for Bruce A, Bruce B, Darlington, and Pickering, and satisfactory for Pointe-le-Pro and Gentil 2. All licensees received either satisfactory or fully satisfactory ratings in the specific control areas. Licensees have implemented safety enhancements by addressing actions and making continuous improvement to the safety operations of their facilities. The licensees are continuing their work on the safety analysis improvements and the can-do safety issues as discussed in yesterday's meeting under CMD 16M34. This report shows that the licensees continue to improve safety at Canadian nuclear power plants. Mr. President and members of the Commission, this concludes the presentation of the Regulatory Oversight Report for Canadian nuclear power plants. And thank you for your attention. The CNSC staff are now available to answer any questions the Commission may have.
Thank you.